Welcome, everyone. From a young age, men are often taught that to be strong is to be in control of their circumstances, their emotions, and the people around them. This illusion of control becomes a guiding force, a benchmark for their sense of power and identity. They believe that if they can control their environment, they can shape the outcomes of their lives, protect themselves from failure, and shield themselves from vulnerability. But this desire for control is in many ways a mirage, masking the deeper insecurities that lie beneath the surface. At its core, the illusion of control is a response to uncertainty. Life, in all its unpredictability, offers no guarantees. The future is unknown, and the outcomes of our actions are never fully within our grasp. For many men, this unpredictability breeds fear. The fear of failure, the fear of not being enough, and the fear of appearing weak. Rather than confronting this fear directly, men often turn to control as a means of coping with their insecurity. Control, however, is a double-edged sword. On the surface, it offers a sense of power and security. A man who believes he is in control of his environment feels capable, confident, and invulnerable. He may meticulously plan his career, organize his relationships, and structure his daily life in ways that give him the appearance of mastery over his circumstances. Yet this sense of mastery is fragile, easily shattered by the unpredictability of life. The more a man tries to control, the more rigid he becomes, and the more he is set up for disappointment when things inevitably don't go according to plan. This obsession with control also extends into relationships. Many men feel the need to control not just their own actions, but the actions and emotions of those around them, particularly the women in their lives. Whether consciously or unconsciously, they may try to dictate the terms of the relationship, believing that by doing so, they can protect themselves from rejection, disappointment, or betrayal. But this form of control is ultimately destructive. It creates distance rather than intimacy, and it stifles the very emotional freedom that is necessary for a deep, authentic connection. Behind this need for control is often a profound sense of inadequacy. A man who feels secure in his worth does not need to control everything around him because he knows that his value is not dependent on external outcomes. But for many men, there is an underlying fear that they are not enough as they are, that they must constantly prove their worth through achievement, dominance, or emotional detachment. This fear drives them to try and control every aspect of their lives, hoping that if they can just keep everything in order, they will be shielded from the painful truth they fear might be lurking within. Yet life does not work this way. No amount of control can protect a person from the inherent uncertainty of existence. The more one tries to control life, the more they find that life slips through their fingers like water. It is in this moment that a deeper truth emerges. Control is not the path to strength or security. In fact, it is the opposite. True strength comes not from controlling life, but from surrendering to it, from accepting the fluidity and unpredictability of existence with grace and resilience. For men, letting go of the illusion of control can be a transformative experience. It requires confronting the very insecurities that the need for control was meant to mask: the fear of failure, the fear of being seen as weak, the fear of vulnerability. But in this confrontation, there is also a profound liberation. By letting go of the need to control everything, men can open themselves to the natural flow of life, allowing themselves to be more present, more flexible, and more in tune with their authentic selves. This facade of confidence may appear convincing. A man might excel in his career, maintain a composed demeanor in social situations, and even exhibit leadership qualities that inspire others. But inside there is often a different story. The emotional armor he wears is not a reflection of inner strength. It is a cover for the very vulnerabilities that he fears to expose. The more he hides behind this armor, the less in touch he becomes with his true self, his fears, his desires, his emotional complexity. At the heart of this armor is fear, fear of rejection, fear of being judged, and fear of not being enough. Many men worry that if they allow themselves to be vulnerable, they will be seen as weak or unworthy. They fear that if they let their guard down, others will take advantage of them, mock them, or dismiss their emotions. So they suppress their feelings and wear the mask of stoicism, hoping it will make them appear more powerful or invulnerable. But in reality, this emotional suppression only deepens their internal conflict. The problem with emotional armor is that while it might protect men from the risk of being hurt, it also prevents them from experiencing the full depth of life. True human connection, whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or even family dynamics, requires vulnerability. It requires the ability to open up, to share fears and insecurities, and to be emotionally available to others. But when a man is constantly guarding his emotions, he keeps others at a distance, never allowing himself to be fully seen or understood. Over time, this leads to a deep sense of loneliness and disconnection. Through patience, compassion, and non-judgmental support, they can create a safe space where men feel comfortable expressing their emotions. This doesn't mean pressuring men to open up, but rather encouraging them to do so in their own time when they feel ready. When a man realizes that his vulnerability is not met with rejection, but with understanding, he begins to trust that it's safe to let down his guard. In conclusion, emotional armor may provide temporary protection from the perceived dangers of vulnerability, but it ultimately isolates men from the richness of emotional life. True strength lies not in suppressing emotions, but in embracing them, acknowledging them, and sharing them with others. When men allow themselves to be vulnerable, they unlock a deeper, more authentic version of themselves, one that is capable of forming lasting connections, experiencing real joy, and living life to its fullest. From a young age, men are shaped by the cultural expectations that society imposes on them, often without their conscious awareness. These expectations form the foundation of what it means to be a man in the eyes of society, and they frequently involve suppressing emotions and personal desires in favor of a rigid, traditional ideal of masculinity. The result is a form of cultural conditioning that can limit men's emotional expression, self-understanding, and personal growth. This conditioning begins early, often during childhood, when boys are taught that certain behaviors are acceptable for them while others are not. From playgrounds to classrooms, boys hear phrases like, "Boys don't cry," or "Be tough," which reinforce the idea that showing vulnerability is a sign of weakness. Emotions such as sadness, fear, and even love are often discouraged, while anger or aggression might be viewed as more appropriate outlets. Over time, this conditioning teaches boys to associate masculinity with stoicism, control, and emotional restraint. Society's expectations extend beyond emotional expression into nearly every facet of a man's life. Men are often expected to be providers, protectors, and leaders, roles that emphasize strength, independence, and dominance. These roles, though not inherently negative, come with a cost when they are seen as the only acceptable ways for men to express their identity. As a result, many men feel pressure to conform to these ideals, even when doing so conflicts with their personal desires or emotional needs. One of the most pervasive cultural ideals of masculinity is the notion that a real man is self-sufficient. He should be able to handle any challenge without asking for help, and he should never rely on others for emotional support. This ideal creates a false sense of independence that isolates men from their communities and even from their own emotions. The fear of being perceived as weak often prevents men from seeking help, whether it's for mental health issues, relationship struggles, or simply navigating the complexities of life. They are expected to tough it out and deal with problems in silence. which can lead to emotional suppression and long-term psychological harm. Another societal expectation placed on men is the pressure to succeed, particularly in terms of financial success, career advancement, and social status. A man's worth is often measured by his ability to achieve these external markers of success, regardless of whether they align with his true passions or values. The pressure to constantly perform and provide can lead to stress, burnout, and a disconnect from one's authentic self. Men who fall short of these societal ideals may experience feelings of inadequacy even if they are successful by their own standards.